have always believed in my friendship with Volodya. We've known each other since childhood, went to school and university together, made plans for the future together, and shared our dreams. He was one of those people you could trust without any doubts. But everything changed in one moment, when I realized that he was the one who took from me what I could not even imagine: my money. It started as a normal story of two friends helping each other. Volodya was always the one who seemed to have everything under control. He knew how to organize things well, was smart, and always found a way out of the most difficult situations. I, on the other hand, sometimes got lost in the details. But we were friends, and it mattered. One day I decided it was time to invest in my business. My parents gave me a large sum of money to start with, $50,000. They had a lot of faith in me, and I wanted to show them that I was worthy of their trust. But with all the hustle and bustle, I realized that I couldn't do it alone. And then Volodya came to the rescue. "Don't worry, I can help you with this investment. I know a few people who can make your money double," he told me that evening as we sat in a coffee shop. His words sounded so confident that I didn't even think twice. Volodya suggested that while I was taking care of business, he could use the money to find good investment opportunities. I had no reason to doubt him. I gave him the money and put my trust in his experience. Weeks passed, then months. Volodya often reported on the progress, showing me fictitious documents that he claimed confirmed that the business was going uphill. I was calm, because I trusted him, and he always looked so convincing. However, soon I started to notice some strange things. First, he started avoiding my calls. Every time I asked how things were going with the investment, he would say, "Everything is fine, we're just in the negotiation stage right now." But the more I asked, the more it became obvious that something was wrong. Then, one day, when I went to his house, I accidentally found a list of investments in his apartment where my money was marked as lost. My heart sank. I could not believe that this was really happening. I had only one question: where is my money? "Volodya, what does this mean?" I asked, grabbing him by the shoulders. He looked surprised, as if nothing had happened. "It's not that bad. There are just some difficulties, I'm trying to solve it." But I could no longer listen to these excuses. That was the moment when I realized that my friend had committed a crime. The money I had entrusted him with had been spent long ago. Not only did he lose it in ridiculous schemes, but he also started lying to my face. I felt like I had been stabbed in the back. I decided to act. I gathered all the evidence I could and went to the police. After several weeks of investigation, it became clear that it was no accident. Volodya had indeed stolen a large sum of money from me, using my trust as a weapon. I was shocked, not so much because of the money, but because of the very fact that my loved one was capable of such a betrayal. The investigation process continued. I tried to gather all possible evidence to prove that Volodya had not just made a mistake, but had deliberately cheated on me. It was a difficult period. I didn't know how to look at him. Even when we met by chance on the street, his gaze no longer inspired in me the unquestioning trust that I once felt. But despite everything, I kept trying to find out what happened to my money. I turned to one of Volodya's friends, whom I had known for a long time and who was close to him. His name was Maxim. And Maxim said that Volodya did have some financial problems, but he couldn't believe that he had done this to me. He's not like you think. He's always been a little bit adventurous. But this could not have been foreseen, my friend Maxim said when I called him in the hope of getting at least some of the truth. "Do you still want to believe in him?" he added. That question remained in my mind as I drove home that evening. I was caught between two worlds. On the one hand, I was seeing my faith in Volodya begin to crumble, and on the other hand, I was trying not to lose touch with the friend I had trusted all my life. A few days later, Volodya called me himself. His voice was calm, even too calm. He did not admit to what had happened, but tried to find an excuse. He said, "I know you're angry with me right now, but things are not as they seem. It was a temporary misunderstanding, and I tried to fix it. I will return the money, I promise." These words did not calm me down. I no longer believed in promises. I had already seen how he was looking for new ways to justify his actions, and how every word he said was becoming more and more hollow. But I still hoped that maybe this was not the end, and I was trying to find a way out of this situation. However, the next day I received a message from his lawyer. It was like a cold shower. Instead of apologizing, Volodya decided to defend himself, trying to convince me that I wasn't careful and that it was my fault for giving him the money without proper verification. He even accused me of not asking him for advice before investing, saying that it was my decision and he was only helping me along the way. That was the moment when I finally realized that I had lost not only my money but also my friend. It was no longer a matter of simple financial theft. It was a matter of deep betrayal, a violation of moral principles and trust that could not be restored. I started doing everything on my own. I sent all the documents to the lawyers and filed a lawsuit. I realized that it would be difficult and time-consuming, but I could no longer let the person I trusted go unpunished. Meanwhile, Volodya began to deny his actions in every possible way. He tried to gather all of our mutual friends to create an image of me as someone who had abused trust, who couldn't handle his own finances. He even tried to get me to take the draft back, promising to return the money. But the more he tried to run away from his actions, the more I was convinced that he would never be the friend I once knew. It was hard for me, but I could no longer be a part of his deception. I began to remember the moments when we laughed together, planned the future, and built dreams together. And this feeling was the most painful. Volodya, my friend, who was supposed to be the one who supported me, became the one who broke my hopes and violated my trust in honesty and friendship. After I filed the draft, my life changed. I did not know what else was ahead, but I felt that there would be a lot of pain ahead. Volodya remained inactive, but his lawyer had clear instructions, and I knew the fight would be long. It was no longer just about money, it became a matter of principle. He had lost my trust, and I decided not to let him escape without consequences. In the meantime, my friends started asking questions about why I wasn't trying to resolve it peacefully. They even told me that it would be better not to sue, that I could just talk to Volodya and solve everything amicably. But I already knew that it was no longer possible to negotiate peacefully. Volodya had crossed all the lines, and now I had to go all the way. I couldn't let the traitor who stole my money get away with it. I started spending more time with lawyers, studying all the details of the case. Every day brought new emotions, from disappointment to anger, from despair to determination. Volodya seemed so far away, but I tried to hold on and not let my emotions get the better of me. My parents were worried about me, but I tried not to worry them. They had always supported me, and I didn't want their pain to be added to my problems. A few weeks after submitting the draft, I received another message from Volodya, but this time it was much more optimistic. He wrote, "I can't return everything, but I'm ready to return some of the money if you take the prize. I promise it won't happen again. You are important to me, but the situation has become difficult. I'm sorry, but it's too late." I thought about these words for a long time. It was hard for me to believe in his sincerity. Volodya always knew how to say the right words when it was in his favor. But this time I knew that I could not let him get away with this situation without consequences. I gathered the documents again and turned to lawyers. They advised me not to agree to any terms until we received real compensation. We continued to work on the case, and soon new evidence emerged that helped us strengthen our position in court. Volodya started to get more and more nervous. Meanwhile, I faced new difficulties. It seemed to me that every day was filled with these court hearings and paperwork. I started to lose touch with other parts of my life. My friends became fewer, and some of them started asking me why I was still fighting this fight. I started to feel my isolation growing. But I couldn't stop. My inner determination was stronger than anything anyone could tell me. A few months later, when things were coming to a close, Volodya decided to make another attempt. He came to me and we met in the same cafe where he had first promised me help with the investment. Volodya was changed, his face looked tired and nervous. He didn't look like he did when we first started. And although I felt pain sitting at the same table with him, I decided to listen to him. "You think this was all planned?" he asked, looking at me. But believe me, I didn't want it. I found myself in a difficult situation and I couldn't get out of it without making mistakes. I am angry with myself. I know I can't take it back, but I'm ready to do something if you give me a chance. I was silent. His words were hard to take. I could see he was repentant, but I wasn't ready to forgive him yet. He may have felt guilty, but it was too late for me. "Volodymyr, you have lost my trust. And what you're saying now won't change anything," I replied. "You have made your choice, and I have to make mine." He fell silent. Those few seconds of silence were extremely difficult for both of us. Although I felt some pain in my soul, I could not change my decision. After we parted ways, I never heard from him again. The trial was nearing its end, and I was calm. Volodya seemed to have no more strength to fight. It was a victory, but I didn't feel happy. All these months of struggle had only given me a feeling of fatigue. Over time, I realized that the betrayal not only ruined my finances but also changed me as a person. I was no longer the same as I was before. My faith in people changed, and I realized how important it is to be careful with the person you trust. Time passed, and although I was working on my case, I realized that it was not over yet. Volodya tried to find a way out of the situation, but every step he took seemed to me to be an attempt to avoid responsibility. He started acting more and more aggressively, trying to find new ways to manipulate the situation. His lawyers were finding ways to delay the process so that he would not be forced to pay the full amount of compensation. But I did not give up. One evening, I was sitting at my desk with all the documents under review when I received another message from Volodya. His letter was different than all the previous ones. He was no longer trying to make excuses or avoid responsibility. It was a simple offer. I know it won't fix everything, but I'm willing to return some of the money if you take back the prize. I don't want this to become a public story. I'm sorry, but if you can, I'm willing to give it all back. I sat and looked at his words. He was again trying to influence me to withdraw from the draft. His words sounded like an attempt to avoid public humiliation, and I felt that he could no longer defend his position. But this time I knew that I couldn't just forgive. I had already gone through all this and could not go back. In the morning, I met with my lawyers and we discussed all the options. I was ready to prove my case to the end. Volodya had to answer for his crime, and I could not let him escape. A few months later, the trial was nearing its end. Volodya looked tired and nervous. His lawyers no longer had the strength to fight. The court found me right. Volodya was forced to return the entire amount to me as well as cover the court costs. It was a victory, but it did not bring me joy. Every day I spent fighting left its mark on my soul. I was no longer the same person I was before all this. My faith in people was lost, and my relationships with friends changed forever. I could no longer trust so easily. Volodya did not appear in my life again, although he wrote to me several times to apologize. But I was no longer the one who would take him back into my circle. He had betrayed me, and even after he returned the money, I couldn't make myself forget what had happened. I realized one important thing: the people you consider your friends are not always ready to support you in the most difficult moment. Sometimes even the best relationships can be destroyed because of a frivolous attitude to someone else's trust. Despite all the difficulties, I learned one thing: a traitor has no right to a second chance. Although I could not return my past, I found the strength to move forward. This experience has taught me to be stronger, more determined, and perhaps a little more cautious in my relationships with other people.